Guardian Games has returned, and with it came a brand new grenade launcher and a refresh to our 2 existing weapons. And in this video, I want to answer the question, should you be farming Guardian Games this year? I will have timestamps for each weapon and when I dive further into their PvE and PvP capabilities. And if you all enjoy and want to hear me talk about more weapons, be sure to check out my prophecy video that I posted earlier. There are actually a ton of great weapons that you can farm from that now. But jump right into it, we're going to first start off take a look at the new grenade launcher, the Hullabaloo. This is going to be a 120 round per minute arc compressive waveframe grenade launcher, and this type of grenade launcher is super rare. There's only one other one, and that is from Neopuna, and that grenade launcher is pretty much dead on arrival. But with this update, grenade launchers actually received a lot of buffs, and specifically these waveframe grenade launchers also did receive a ton of buffs with increasing its width and damage. So let's take a look at its perks and see if anything can stack up. So in the first column, we have Impulse Amplifier, Enlighten Action, Field Prep, Autoloading Holster, Envious Assassin, Grave Robber, and Volt Shot. Then the second column, we have One for All, Vorpal Weapon, Cascade Point, Chain Reaction, Collective Action, Disruption Break, and Golden Tricorn. So there are a ton of good perks on this grenade launcher, and starting off with PvE in our first column, we do have things like Enlighten Action to increase our reload speed. Field Prep can also increase our reload speed, plus give us extra ammo reserves. Autoloading is always nice if you are using this as a swap DPS. If you use something like Izanagi pair with this. Envious Assassin obviously is very strong. It's did get nerfed, but it's still going to be one of the best perks in the game. You can overflow your magazine just to shoot more shots, and it also does have Volt Shot. I know that's what they were promoting when they showed this grenade launcher, but in my opinion, if you are running a heavy weapon, I really wouldn't run it for at clear unless you are running a machine gun. But who knows, maybe this can stack up with machine gun at clear if you do have something like Volt Shot. This can pair well with Chain Reaction in the second column, which is what they were promoting. Even if we take a look at the other things, we do have things like One for All, Vorpal, Cascade Point, Collective Action, and even Golden Tricorn. It's not the worst. Like, all these perks are pretty good. If you are building into the at clear part of it, Volt Shot and Chain Reaction is going to be very nice. You're going to get so many explosions, and then you can also chain lightning everywhere. Even things like Envious Assassin, Chain Reaction, if you don't want to run Volt Shot, if you don't want to reload, that could be very good. Auto loading in Chain Reaction is also not the worst. And Field Prep, all these can work extremely well. Chain Reaction is definitely going to be your strongest perk for at clear. Now, if we take a look at single target damage, if this ever does become meta, you do have things like Vorpal, which is nice to give you that 10% increased damage. Cascade Point could be an interesting option because you can just blow your load really fast with this. Even things like Collective Action is not bad for single target, because if you pick up Elemental Pickup, you get 20% increased damage. One for All is a higher damage boost than Collective Action, but you're not really proccing this on a bunch of enemies than shoot balls. And on top of that, Golden Tricorn is a higher damage boost than One for All if you do proc this, but again, you're never really going to be in a situation where you're going to proc this then shoot a ball. So just go with something like Vorpal for single target is going to be probably your best bet if you just don't want to have to worry about anything. But if you want to buff your damage up a little bit more, you can take Collective Action for a pretty easy way to set it up. And then One for All, Golden Tricorn, I really wouldn't worry about those. And then, like we were talking about in the first column, pretty much everything applies here as well. Field Prep, get that extra ammo, auto loading, so you don't have to reload the gun if you're doing weapon swapping. Envious Assassin, again, all these are going to be very good. The main question is this thing actually going to become meta? Is this archetype actually going to start shining? If it is, I would definitely look out for things like Envious Assassin and Vorpal, because if they do become meta, this will not only do a ton of damage, but it also will be very easy to use. And then again, if you want to go with at clear, Volt Shot, Chain Reaction is going to be a very fun combo. Now, I'm not sure how many people are going to be using this in PvP, but if this is something that you like, you do have things like Impulse Amplifier, which is one of the best perks, so you can increase that velocity on this grenade launcher. Pretty much every other perk in this column doesn't matter whatsoever for PvP. Kind of the same thing, nothing really matters too much, so I would just go with Chain Reaction. So if you do get a kill, you will cause an explosion. That's just going to be your best bet. This is pretty much the go-to perks on pretty much any grenade launcher as it is in PvP, just the increased velocity, and then obviously making explosions is very nice. But moving on from that, let's take a look at the Title. This is one of the first weapons they actually ever made for Guardian Games. This is going to be a 720 round per minute void aggressive frame SMG. This is one I was very excited for, and if we take a look at its perk pool, it does have Perpetual Motion, Threat Detector, Dynamic Sway Reduction, Repulsor Brace, Grave Robber, Pugilist, and Attrition Orbs. In the second column, Swashbuckler, Deconstruct, Collective Action, Surrounded, Vorpal, Rangefinder, and Destabilizing rounds. Now, when they announced Guardian Games, they did mention that Repulsor Brace was going to be coming in the first column, and that got me very excited, because this weapon pairs extremely well with something like a Gyrfalcon's Hunter, and that is because of the fact it has its classic contender origin trait. So when you get final blows, you will be granted class ability energy, and with Gyrfalcons, if you use your class ability, you obviously go invisible, you come out of invisibility if you have the build set up correctly, and you have volatile rounds. With those volatile rounds, you can now proc Repulsor Brace, and since this is in the first column now, you can actually take advantage of other damage perks. Collective Action, you get a damage increase. Swashbuckler, you get a damage increase. So around it, you also can get a damage increase. And then what most people are going to take the stabilizing rounds so you can have even more volatile is even better for ad clear. All those that you're doing it though, you're also going to be granting yourself an overshield if you are playing into a volatile base build, which 9 times out of 10, you're going to be doing that with this weapon. Now, if that's not your thing, it also does come with Pugilist, so you can get some melee energy. So now when you get a kill, you get class ability and melee energy. You can pair that with Swashbuckler to get a damage increase. But if you are going to be running a damage-based perk on a primary weapon, I would highly recommend just doing that on a kinetic weapon since they inherently do damage anyway. And I would always recommend playing into the elemental gimmick with these elemental primaries. So for me personally, I'm going to be going with Repulsor Brace into stabilizing rounds. Yes, you will already get volatile if you are playing the Falcon's build, but this just means you can spread more volatile a lot easier. And if you don't have volatile up, you can just spread it without even having to activate anything in your subclass. But again, you also will get an overshield every single time you kill enemies now with that volatile effect on them. This combination will actually make it extremely good for Titans and Warlocks as well, since they can't just have infinite volatile like a Falcon's Hunter can. Now, I would also highly recommend building into reload speed just so you can keep this weapon's uptime up in the fight a lot more. And then I would go with something like Arrowhead Break just to get maximum recoil direction and increase the handling. This is something I'm going to be on the lookout for, and I will be farming for a ton this Guardian games. But now for PvP, you have things like Perpetual Motion, you have Threat Detector, which also a pretty good perk for PvE that I forgot to mention, but you also have Dynamic Sway Reduction. You can even make Repulsor Brace work, and I guess Pugilist is also not the worst. Swashbuckler, if you're trying to play into a damage increase, Deconstruct is honestly a pretty fun option because you can pair this with Hawk of Reach Armaments to do more damage to constructs, and then this is going to refill the ammo, so this can be a very good thing for just Titan barricades. And then Rangefinder is obviously pretty good, so you can kind of build this into a consistent weapon or build it into just slaying out. So again, Swashbuckler, if you're trying to slay out collective action, you're not going to rock collective action as much as you can Swashbuckler. So if you're going for a slay out roll, I would just use Swashbuckler. Things like Perpetual Motion, just so you can get in there, get stability, get some reload speed, and you can just go to town. Now, for me personally, I would build this into pure consistency. I would go with Rangefinder and Dynamic Sway Reduction. You're going to get increased range, you're going to get increased accuracy, and then you can even build into that with Ricochet rounds to get even more range and stability. And then obviously you can take a barrel that suits your needs. If you want to go more range, you can take full bore, or even if you want to take hammer forge rifling just to increase that range without the negative stats, you can do that too. For me personally, I would go with full bore with a range mass work, and then you're sitting at 70 range with Rangefinder and Dynamic Sway, and you're going to have a pretty consistent weapon for PvP. And this isn't going to top any other SMG that we do have in the game for PvP, but if you do get this to drop when you're farming the PvE option, I would keep it, mess around with it. You might end up liking it. You know, Hawk of Reach Armaments and Classic Contender are both pretty for PvP, but the Title is definitely going to be a main PvE shining weapon, and it's something I would definitely recommend farm for. Now finally, we have the Taraxippos. This is going to be a 200 round per minute strand lightweight frame scout rifle. This thing is a ton of fun, and it also has some pretty good perks. First off, we have Eye of the Storm, Enlighten Action, Zen Moment, 4 times the charm, moving target, keep away, and gut shot straight, alongside Precision Instrument, Kill Clip, Encore, Focus Fury, Cascade Point, Hatchling, and Explosive Payload. Now for PvE in this first column, Enlighten Action is going to be very good to get your reload speed up. 4 times the charm is not the worst. It's definitely not something I would recommend over some of these other perks, but it can build into some other things. And you even have things like Gut Shot Straight, which can also build into other things, and that is mainly with Explosive Payload. So with Explosive Payload, obviously your bullet's going to explode. If you get a precision hit, it's going to take some of that damage and turn that into body shot damage, and Gut Shot Straight will actually buff that damage, which is very, very cool. It's a really cool interaction. I have a role like this and I have not used it for an entire year, just to throw that out there. But if you want a unique interaction, this is definitely one I would look out for, and it is pretty good. It's just I've never really had a scenario where I would want to use this over pretty much any other thing. Now you also obviously have things like Hatchling, which is what I would 100% play into, since this is going to be a strand weapon. But you also have things like Focus Fury, which can play into 4 times the charm, but again, we're not really using this for single target damage. If you want to use something like a champion, maybe you could, but definitely would not recommend that. Kill Clip is always a nice damage perk, but this is just kind of slowly getting out the meta for most PvE weapons and some of the other perks, but it's always going to be like just a good reliable perk. And Precision Instrument's also not bad. 4 times the charm Precision Instrument, again, kind of like Focus Fury. Do that champion over and over again, but I weirdly wouldn't recommend that. Another really cool interaction is that with Gut Shot Straight, it will actually increase the damage of Hatchling if you're aiming down sight, because aiming down sight will increase body shot damage. If you make the Hatchling, it will actually go out, and since that Hatchling will count as weapon damage if you make it with the weapon itself, that will increase his damage. So that's just another cool, unique interaction. It's not like a crazy thing. If you're trying to play into a Hatchling build, I would pretty much always just recommend Enlightened Action just to increase the reload speed. But if you want to get the most out of your threatening damage, you can definitely go Gut Shot Straight and Hatchling. And again, Gut Shot Straight Explosive Payload is also a very fun option. But for me personally, for PvE, I would build this with Enlightened Action and Hatchling. Last year's I have Outlaw and Hatchling. I really don't have to farm for this since I have Outlaw. Since this Scout Rifle, you're pretty much always saying precision hits anyway. If you didn't get a chance to get that, Enlightened Action Hatchling is very good. And again, this does have classic contenders, so you will get class ability back. If you're playing into a threadling build on the Warlock, you can get your whiff back faster to make more threadlings. But now for PvP, you have things like Eye of the Storm, which is very good. Enlightened Action, it's not terrible. Zen Moment's also pretty good. Movement Target, Keep Away, all these are very, very strong. Even Gut Shot Strike you can kind of make work. Precision Instrument is very good. Kill Clip, very good. Encore, very good. Cascade Point is very fun. Actually, it's not even the worst, and Explosive Payload is good. Like, these perks are very, very good for PvP, and you can obviously build this into a slay out roll, take it something like Kill Clip and Light Action just to increase that reload speed when you're getting hits, and then also getting that extra damage when you get a reload. You could slay out with this thing. Now, if you're going for a more consistent route, which I imagine most of you probably are, things like Eye of the Storm is going to be very strong. This gives you a huge advantage in a 1v1 fight because they're getting you low, you're getting them low, but now you're getting bonuses when you get low. You can pair that with pretty much anything else that's built for consistency. Things like Explosive Payload is going to be very nice for flinching enemies, and it's also just one of the best perks in the game. Precision Instrument could be interesting with the PvP changes. I'm not exactly sure the math that will add up for that with the new health pool, but that could potentially be pretty good as well. But if I was going for pure consistency, I would 100% go Explosive Payload, just again to cause that flinch. We have things like Zen Moment as well, just so we can increase our stability, which is very, very nice. But then we also have Moving Target, so we can strafe increase that movement speed. That is very good for your consistency. And then Keep Away, one of the best perks in the game in my opinion, but it is on a Scout Rifle, so I don't really know how much you need Keep Away, but it is nice because you're going to be getting a ton of stats just by standing far away. This will always be proc because it is a Scout Rifle, and you can just sit back and just blink enemies away. This is a lightweight frame, so you will actually get plus 20 mobility inherently with this weapon, which is very nice. And you can craft this up to be a very, very fun PvP option if Scout Rifles are your thing. Now, obviously, Scout Rifles aren't everybody's thing, and they aren't particularly in the meta right now. But if this ever does become meta, I would definitely look out for a Keep Away Explosive Payload, and then you can kind of just build into whatever stats you would like to. And you don't really need range that much for a Scout Rifle, so if you want to build in stability, you can absolutely do that. But that is all of the Guardian Games weapons for this year. Let me know the weapon you're looking out for the most. Obviously, the Title for PvE is going to be extremely strong. That is one I would highly recommend everyone try to get. The Grenade Launcher, if it turns out to be pretty good, it has some pretty unique roles that I would try to get just in case. Then Taraxippos, if you had a pretty good one last year, you don't really have to fall for it again this year. It's nothing too new and crazy about it. But if you didn't get one, you know, you can just get one now this year. Anyways, though, I wish you all the best of luck if you are farming for anything. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.